Well, this looks like a good place to start. I'm going to try to get an introduction to this. This is Taylor Lake, Oregon, side by side with Irish Lake, which is a pretty remote area. It is remote camping, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today, and also what you're probably going to need when you come up here. For starters, and then you'll see that in just a few minutes. Here's Taylor Lake from the first appearance of the lake that you start coming into. The road here is pretty bad. I can't stress that enough. Don't start up here in the family car, but we're going to get into that in a minute. And I haven't been here myself for 48 years, 47, 48 years. I grew up in Bend. I went scuba diving at Waldo Lake, which is just to the southwest of here. And we'll be going up there, but not on this segment. On Saturday morning, I'll be coming out that way. I came in from the Central Oregon side, and I'm going to get into that in my intro later. But right now, I want to get on the road. I want to give you a real good example of why you need to choose your vehicle very well before you come up here. And we're going to get into that right now. Okay, we're going to go back to the main road, and you're going to be shocked at what you see. All right, this is one of the cutoffs from the main road. This is the main road, by the way, and this is the way I came in 2 days ago. And I'm camped on there's two lakes here. There's Irish Lake and Taylor Lake. We're going to do Taylor Lake first because that's the first lake that you'll see coming from the Central Oregon side. If you're coming from Eugene and up by Waldo Lake, that's another way in here. And I probably won't get a gist of that. This road hasn't changed much in 50 years, to be honest with you. In fact, in some cases, I think it's even worse than it was when I was a kid in high school, coming up here to go scuba diving. And this road, it's primitive. And right here, it doesn't look so bad. But you can be sure that you're going to get into some pretty rough stuff here. And you're going to need a lot of wheel clearance under your vehicle. Don't come up here in the family sedan. You need maybe four-wheel drive, and you'll see that right now. You'll notice some rocks coming up, and we're going to be climbing a hill here. And this is typical of this road, so don't come up here thinking that this is just one instance where you're going to maybe have a problem. Right here, you're climbing up a road, and you'll be able to see clearly what we're looking at here. I want you to notice this. There are rocks jetting up a foot high, and you've got to choose how you attack this. There's also a big hole right here that goes down about a foot, and on the other side of that you got rocks coming up a foot. Now any small car with even a large car, a large sedan would have no way of getting through this. I did it in a Suzuki Sidekick with enough clearance, and I'm going to get to that later. But this is the way you do it. You go around the big ones as best you can, like this. You come up like this and come around again. Tricky stuff. And you need to know that before you make the trip up here. This is primitive country, and the camping is very primitive. I'm going to get into that too later. What you come up here with, you better make sure you got it all, because you're not going to be able to run back to the grocery store and pick something up because you missed putting it in the car. Okay, again, some rocks. Not bad. You can get around them. Okay, again, some rocks. The road's full of rocks. The Forest Service is notorious in not maintaining the roads. Like I said, this road hasn't changed that much in 50 years. They haven't cleared it out, and that's good. It limits the number of people that come up here and can enjoy it, instead of coming up and holding parties if you're a teenager and messing the place up. There's no camp host up here. It is free camping, by the way. The camping is free. You don't have a fee to pay. There's no host up here. And if something happens, you're pretty much on your own up here too. Okay. Right here, the road isn't really too bad. There's rocks in it, but even a car could make that one. Most cars could anyway. And right here, it's not bad. You can see Taylor Lake off to the left through the trees. Well, that's where we're coming into one of the campgrounds here. And I'll talk about that when we get there. What you can expect if you come up here. I'm planning to spend 4 days. I've already been here a couple of days just checking it out again after so long. Like I said, I haven't been here in a while. And it's so beautiful. Very quiet at night. And almost scary. I was the only one camped up here for the last 2 nights, and it was me and nobody else on 2 lakes. So you had 2 lakes to yourself, Taylor Lake and Irish Lake. And you'll see where I'm camped and why I picked that one. But there's a number of alternatives here. Another thing too, you can't burn at this time of the year here right now. It's so dry, they won't let you start fires here. But there is wood everywhere, virtually everywhere you look. Wood just laying around. So if fire season is okay to burn, you're not going to have a problem if you bring a chainsaw up like I did. And I'm not using it because I can't. But there's wood on both sides of the road, everywhere. And it would take no time at all just to take your chainsaw and whack a few pieces off for a 3 or 4 day stay up here. I'm going to walk along for a few minutes and talk to you, because I'm coming up to a campground. I started up back there just to let you know what the road's like. And it's not like that in just one spot. You're going to run into that. I used my 4-wheel drive section in my car 3 times. And one of them was back there. I should have mentioned that to you. There's a wet spot. And if you don't have 4-wheel drive, you may get stuck there. I almost did, and I shifted into 4-wheel drive and got out without a problem. Again, more firewood. Lots of big stuff in here. So there's no shortage of wood. You don't have to buy it like you do in a pay-for campsite. You don't have to purchase the wood. You got plenty of it here. Everywhere. Okay. And here you got some rocks in the road again. Yeah. And I just want you to know they're there. And if you don't pay attention to it, you may lose a gas tank or something else under your car. So you try to avoid the big rocks. And there's a lot of them up here. So pay attention when you're driving. Keep your eye on the road. Now here's a section that's relatively smooth, no rocks in it. And we're coming up to one of the larger campgrounds, for Taylor Lake anyway, pretty soon here. And there's some things you're going to notice, and this is very important to remember, because I didn't bring everything that I wished I brought. I looked at the Forest Service brochure, not the brochure, their website, and they said that campsites have got tables, and there's a, a vault toilet located in the campground. Well, there isn't any. So you got to be prepared for that. If you're going to spend several days up here with no toilet available, you got to bring some type of facility to do that. There's simple ways of doing it to beat that. You go down to not Walmart, but Cabela's or some outdoor store that's good at selling stuff like this. You can buy a portable toilet, and it folds up pretty well, so you can pack it in. You're probably going to need that up here. Okay. The second thing is tables. All the campsites don't have tables. I've been up here 2 days, and because I'm alone, I managed to find one table, and it's in bad shape. And I'm going to get to that when we get to that campsite later on in this segment. Okay. But it's a beautiful place. It's quiet. I did hear some people talking, so I'm not alone here, but I don't know if they're just hikers or what. But okay, here's one campsite. This is one of the first ones you're going to come to here. And again, there's a fire pit that somebody made. There's no really factory-made fire pits up here. But here's one right here. And you can put a small tent in here too, not a large one. That's one of the reasons I didn't take this one and other similar ones, is I have a very large tent. It's 18 feet long. With the wires that attach to it, you're looking at probably 25 feet on both sides. So it wouldn't fit here. And there's rocks here. So you got to make sure you bring a small tent to accommodate yourself, or if you have a large one, you can pick and choose another site. The lake, by the way, is right over there. I hope you can see it through the trees. Okay, now back to the road. If you follow this road to its conclusion, it'll take you to Waldo Lake, and that's how I'm coming out Saturday. I'm going to be leaving after 4 days here, and I'm going to follow the road through to Waldo because I'm going to Astoria, Oregon to camp up there. I just previously camped in Central Oregon at North Twin Lake for 4 days, which I remember familiar. I've been doing it every year. It's a beautiful place, beautiful lake, and it's quiet usually. And then I went to La Pine State Park for a couple of days just to stay in that campground. They have electricity to the campsite, so I wanted to recharge all my batteries to get ready for this trip up here, knowing that I'm not going to have electricity up here if I don't bring it myself. So I bring an extra 12-volt battery with me. And that way I can always keep one fully charged up for the car and another one to run a portable television like I do. I'm going to admit it to you, I do bring a 12-volt, 16-inch television DVD combo to watch movies. Here's another campsite. This is Taylor Lake again, and we're coming to almost the end of it here. But here's a nice big campsite. But you'll notice all the rocks. And you can't put a tent on rocks like this. However, you could put a small one right here. Let's say a 9 by 10 or a 10 by 10 foot tent. It would fit in perfectly right here in between these two trees. And you have a fire pit over there. But everywhere else, it's pretty hard to find any place to put a tent where there's not rocks, except right here, which excluded me. I couldn't put my tent here, so I had to move on. Okay, but it's not a bad spot if you have a small tent. 10 by 10 would be about the limit for this one. And there's another small place you might be able to squeeze a tent over here. Another small one. Next to the fire pit. And if you notice, there's another site right next to this one. Another fire pit down there too. And okay, we're back on the road again. You know, and like I said, there's nothing exciting going on up here, usually. Unless you had a bear attack or something like that, but there's usually not that many people up here. I heard someone about here where I'm standing now having a talking, but I didn't hear a vehicle come in for the last 2 days either, so they may have hiked in and put up a campsite, or they just may be hiking in and hiking out. Okay, so now, moving along. Again on the Taylor Lake side. Okay. The reason I'm doing this is I'm just showing you that there's about 3 or 4 sites on Taylor Lake, depending on, you know, what you're bringing up for camping equipment. What would you use up here? And make sure you pack what you need to come up here. You haven't yet seen Irish Lake. That's where I'm camped, because there is a couple of sites over there that can accommodate a larger tent. Yeah. Again, here's a steep hill right in front of us. And notice that rock in there. You can't miss it, right dead ahead of us too. Now, if you're in a car, like any car, it makes sense to right now get over on the very right side of the road and go around that rock. Because when you're looking at where the wheel would go if you were over here, that's pushing up about a foot high to the top of that rock. And you might lose some very important stuff trying to do that. Okay, here's some more camping areas on Taylor Lake. You can see the lake back there in the very back, and there's also some sites. You could probably put a larger tent in here. I checked this one out and I decided against it after I found the site on the other side of the road to the other lake that had, it was just better all the way around. But over here you're going to see, this is Taylor Lake again, same lake. We're at the opposite end of the one where we started. If you look back, that's where we started back there, the other end of the lake. But you can see right here, there's not so much rock. There's some. But you could probably easily get a 10 by 10 foot tent, maybe slightly larger in here somewhere. And again, you got a fire pit right there. And moving on further down. Okay. I need to show you this because it's kind of interesting. I came in here yesterday as I was walking around thinking about what I'm going to take some photos of here. Okay. And I got down here and I noticed something very interesting. If you look right dead ahead of me where that big rock is, somebody actually built a lean-to in there. Now, I don't know what the purpose of it is exactly, but right there in front of you in the dead center of this, that lean-to is there. And it would be hard to camp here. Actually, you could probably stay in the lean-to, but it doesn't look very waterproof to me if it started raining. But there it is inside of it. Somebody actually built this thing. And you got a huge fire pit right in front of it. But there's not, as far as putting a tent in here, I wouldn't bank on it. It would have to be something like we used to call 50 years ago a pub tent. Something along that line. And even that would be hard pressed to find a comfortable spot to put one. Okay, let's get out of here. You've seen that one. I'm going to go to the other lake right now, and I'm going to tell you why I picked that lake. And there are other sites that I could have used over there on the other side. Again, look at the size of the rocks. I was in here with my car yesterday just driving around, and I'll tell you what, just getting turned around in some of these spots, yeah, it's kind of tricky, honestly. So, like I said, I can't stress that enough. Make sure you got a good running vehicle, preferably four-wheel drive, and it stands up about a foot or higher where you can deal with rocks like we're dealing with right here in the road right now. And sometimes even worse than this, as I just showed you when we started out. I love coming back up here after this long. Brings back a lot of memories, it really does. Okay, we're back on the main highway again. I'm just joking with you. If you look up, like going to Waldo Lake, around the corner, I'm not going to take you there. Just trust me, it's there. There's a bunch of trails you can take to other lakes. You can't drive to them. They're anywhere from a mile away to 12 miles away. And it's very primitive, no cars allowed, no motorized vehicles allowed either. Horses okay, I guess. But again, look at the rocks in the road up there. Maybe you can't see them, but they're there. Some big ones just going up that hill. That's a different one than the one we came in on. So don't be surprised when you come up here. You're going to see that a lot. Every once in a while. Again, here's some wood. If you're interested in picking some firewood, it's laying right here by the road. Okay, we're going to go to Irish Lake. It's a beautiful lake, and it's wonderful. You got two lakes side by side, and if you're up here like I am and you're alone, you got basically two lakes. And I watch TV at night in my tent, or I slide a video DVD in and watch a movie or something. And it's dark when the sun goes down. The temperature drops. It's September 10th, and this is the first time in over a week the weather's been nice and accommodating. Up until now, I've been freezing, okay, at night. And Central Orient, Lapine, and Twin Lakes, in that area, it was really freezing, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, here's the main road, like I came in on. Here's another road that goes to Irish Lake, which is adjacent to Taylor Lake. And this is where you'll see where I'm camped. And there's reasons for this, really. Not only the size of the tent, but there's a table there. The only table in both lakes. I was under the impression when I came up here, looking at the Forest Service stuff, that every campsite would have a lake. I mean, a table. Well, it has the lake. There's Irish Lake. And I want to walk over and just show it to you before I go to the campsite, which is right over there. Yeah, you can see it back there. But just to get a picture of this lake, this is a good place to start. It's a beautiful place to camp because you're right here pretty much on the lake. And here's a nice big campsite right here. Fire pits and the whole 9 yards right on the lake. There it is. I'm going to try to get around that tree so you can see the fire pit in the back there where all the rocks are. Okay, well here's the lake right here too. You know, you can just walk out, basically out of your tent and stroll over to the lake, and this is the view you're going to get here. This is Irish Lake, the second lake up here. And this is the view you're going to get right here in this campsite. And there's some things that's really surprising here. There's even an island here, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute. But anyway, there's the other end of the lake. And that's where the trail is. Beyond that, where you catch that trail to go up to about 3 more lakes up there. And there's a couple of trails up there. And they're all primitive, by the way. Okay, now here you go. Now you're going to notice if you pay attention, we're looking right now at an island out in the middle of Irish Lake. An island sitting there with a tree growing right out through it. And you can actually span the whole thing pretty much. It curves around and goes beyond that. It's a beautiful lake. Honestly beautiful. Stellar place to be. And it's right now the weather's warm. It's going to be pushing 80 today. And I'm sitting here in a short sleeve shirt, which is the first time in about a week, or a little over a week, I've been able to do that. I'm going to show you where I'm camped and why I did it. Why I chose that one. Okay, we're off the road, off the main road anyway. And that's where I'm camped right there. So let's walk in and take a look. This is actually the way to drive in. It's kind of a driveway. But again, even here, in every campground, you got rocks like this one. Everywhere. So be careful where you're driving your car. Now you're coming up with a bunch of roots. And if you could really ground a small car out right here. Right here. So try to come in with a vehicle that can handle the job, first of all. All right, here we are. And this is where I'm camped. And again, here's the tent. And it's got a beautiful view of the lake again. A little higher than the other campground, just below here. But, again, there's rocks, as you can see. And I barely got my tent in this one without going over the top of that rock. Pretty much on the other side as well. All right. Okay, this is the other side. Like I said, it's an 18-foot tent, and it just barely fits in this room. Right here. Uh-oh. Okay, there it is. And the car's parked here. Notice the ground clearance. 15-inch tires, 4-wheel drive. And you've got a low range in there if you really needed it. I haven't had to go there. It's got a low range that you can use in that car. I just came in with the typical high range, but did have to use the 4-wheel drive in 3 places because I was sliding around. I may have made it through, but I didn't want to tear my car up in the process with all the rocks and stuff around it. Anyway, and the only picnic table, here's another reason I picked this site, is this one. Okay, and this picnic table needs repair. It's been here probably as long as 50 years ago when I was here before, right? But as you can see, it's got a giant fire pit. You can't use it at this point. But look at the table. It's the only table on both lakes that I found. And I've been here walking around for 2 days and I couldn't find another one quite like this. And again, stellar view of the lake. All right. There are other sites if you have a large tent, and I'm not trying to discourage you if you have a large tent, but your options are limited on where you can put it. Okay, I'm going to take you down right here, and you can drive down here, just right from my tent, right over there, where my car is at. Drive down this road here, and there's rocks everywhere. Here's where you come in. Look at the size of the rocks here. Pay attention to that, because you're going to go around them all. You can't go over the top of these things. All right, now you're coming down right to the lake itself. And I'm telling you why I picked the site that I did. It really came down to the table, okay? I like to have a table to, barbecue on and stuff like that. But there's camping sites down here, low, just a few feet away, where you could put a 12-foot tent if you wanted to. And it's not bad. Not a 12-foot, but an 18-foot tent like the one I have. You could do it down here, but you don't have a table. And notice, you've just got there's been a lot of vehicle traffic here. And I'm kind of surprised at that because they don't spend any money on the roads. But this is a campground that's pretty well taken care of one way or the other. We don't have a bunch of weeds growing up. And right in through here, you've got a couple of sites that would accommodate an 18-foot tent. Right here, for example. You could easily put an 18-foot tent here. And you could put another one over there. And still another one in the back there, right behind that last tree. You could put 3 18-foot tents here. You're going to have a fire pit. And there's a couple of those down here. But you're not going to have a table. So if you have a portable table, you don't have any toilets in any of these campsites. You have to. That's another matter, and I talked about that earlier. You gotta come in here with that in your head. No toilets. You're limited to the size of the tent, and if you bring a large tent, you're going to have fewer and fewer options on where you're going to put it. You don't have a table except for this one right here, so if somebody's already got it, you might negotiate a space arrangement with him, but you'd have to walk a long way to get there to the table, at least 150 feet, as you can see. I'm trying to show it to you up there. That's where the table is. It's the only one on the whole area that I've found so far. Okay, so I think I've covered just about everything. Notice the rocks in the road when you come out here in your car. You're going to have to navigate around them all. And there's some really big ones in here. See that right dead ahead, there's that huge boulder. Comes out about 1.5 feet out of the ground. You want to go around that thing, don't go over it. Don't go through there unless you have to. If you do have to, you can squeeze around this boulder right here, the one on the left. And that's what I did. You can see my car, tracks right here where I went around this boulder and came out where the car is parked right now. Again, the table, the view, pretty good view. And that's why I picked this site. The table, the size for the tent, and that's the view right there. Beautiful view of the lake. This is Irish Lake. The first one we came in on is Taylor Lake. It doesn't have the large tent sizes, which is the drawback over there, but there's a couple of places over there you could probably squeeze an 18-footer in without going over rocks and stuff, but tough to do. Notice how quiet it is up here, how pristine it is up here, and at night you're up here alone if you're like I am. Now, I don't know if it's hunting season. You might have 3 or 4 more tents up here. But it's September 10th. It was just past Labor Day, and who knows what was up here Labor Day. I just got here 2 days ago, but this is it. And I hope you enjoyed this tour. And I hope maybe someday to see you up here if you want to do it. And you can reach me and some of my other sites at LIBNW on YouTube. You can see some of the other campsites that I've been in Central Oregon and elsewhere, and I'm going to add this to that. And I hope you enjoyed it. It's taken about 30 minutes. I'm glad you stuck with me, because to tell a story right, it takes 30 minutes to get a good view of the place and see what it's like. And I hope this is encouraging to you. If you're in Central Oregon, there's 2 ways to come in. If you do it from the Central Oregon side, go to Cultus Lake, turn off to Little Cultus Lake, and you'll see the signs. Other than that, there aren't any signs at all telling you where the Irish and Taylor Lake campground is. If you have a GPS, and if it happens to be a TomTom GPS, I'm going to have the coordinates of this trip on that GPS for you. So just look for it in those ways. And if you don't have TomTom, go to Little Cultus Lake, and you'll see the cutoff. It's Forest Service Road number 600. It's easy to remember, 600, and it takes you all the way to Waldo Lake, but you pass this campground, and it'll take you here. And there's signs that'll take you here. But keep in mind, the road is not going to be an easy one. It's going to take you longer to go from Little Cultus Lake up here to where you're going to camp than it will be to go from Bend, Oregon, which is 35 miles away, or better, to drive that. You can do that in about 40 minutes. It's going to take you an hour to drive the last 4.5 miles. And that's what it is to Little Cultus Lake, 4.5 miles. That last 4 miles is bad. The worst of it is the last 3 to 3.5 miles before you get here. That's the worst of the road. So I hope to see you come up here and here again one more shot at the lake before we quit.